Nintendo. Far and beyond the most iconic name in the gaming industry. A company whose platforms and properties have brought no small amount of joy to people ever since 1983. They brought us out of the video game crash and outlived their greatest competitor. They have come back from the brink of death, then died, and resurrected again. However you slice it, there is something about this company that draws people in. Take a look at the modern video game industry. Placing the PC aside for the purposes of this video, let's look at the current console market. Between the big three of Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, there is a clear outlier. It would be next to impossible to argue that Nintendo is not that outlier. There is something about them, their games, and their platform that sets them apart, which is why they are treated as a different beast entirely than the other two major console manufacturers of today. What is that? Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want to make it clear that I'm not making this video to toot Nintendo's horn. They have done their fair share of crap that I haven't forgotten. I may be a huge fan, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna cut them any slack when they pull nonsense. This video is about exploring what it is about Nintendo that makes them such a unique face in the gaming industry. Part 1. Unique Platforms. Compare any modern Nintendo platform to any other modern console after the GameCube, PS2, and original Xbox generation. When you look at the Wii, for example, next to the Xbox 360 or PS3, which were its main competitors, it becomes glaringly obvious that the Wii is a different sort of console, for better or for worse. One thing that really quickly started to set Nintendo apart was that after the GameCube, they stopped chasing cutting-edge technology and decided to chase originality instead. This hurt them in many ways and benefited them in others. If you take one glance at the Wii's standard controller, you can easily see that the Wii is, to this day, unlike any other game console. The strange remote design of the controller, the pointer-controlled menus, the weird cord-attached joystick for more control-heavy games, it's all still the only thing like it. For a company that pioneered stuff that we now take for granted, such as directional pads, shoulder buttons, and for the love of God, the freaking analog stick, going to something like this was a bold move, but a move that gave Nintendo its modern identity. Nintendo is known for being the weird ones. Nintendo are known for being those guys with the console that has some sort of weird, unique capability at any given time. With the design of the Wii's controller and the whole console's emphasis on pointer and motion controls being a perfect example of this. But, of course, what sets you apart is not always good. The Wii set itself apart in a bad way by being extraordinarily weak in comparison to its competition. That's not to say that there weren't any great-looking games for the platform, with titles like Sonic Colors and the Super Mario Galaxies being clear beauties. However, the weakness of the Wii's hardware was one of the things setting Nintendo apart, even though in quite a bad way. The Xbox 360 and PS3 were bunched together, whereas the Wii, thanks to its hardware, was a whole different realm. The Wii had a wealth of capabilities that the 360 and PS3 did not, but didn't have the hardware to take advantage of them fully, which turned it into a console that was entirely separate, thus creating the current state of Nintendo as the other in the gaming industry. But let's get back on the bright side. Nintendo had always been known for pioneering new ways of playing games, and the Wii was no exception. Motion controls were, for their time, a huge innovation. No matter what you think of them, you cannot deny that they were a huge new way to play games for their time. People had dreamed for years of controlling a sword in a game in the way you do in The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. And, while it may have been clunky in practice, it was the realization of a lifelong dream for many gamers. Motion controls have now evolved to be more so a complement to traditional controls, with games like Super Mario Odyssey using them excellently. Alright, so now that I have rambled on for a little bit about the Wii, let's shift gears and talk about Nintendo's handhelds. As is Nintendo's style, they invented the handheld game console. However, the Nintendo DS and its successor, the 3DS, are both among the most interesting and innovative handhelds ever put on the market. The clamshell design protecting two screens is a genius one that opens up countless possibilities. The double screen aspect makes well-designed DS games entirely unique. A DS game is unlike any other game on the market when the exclusive features of the DS are used well. Sony's two competitive offerings to the DS lineup are the PlayStation Portable and the PlayStation Vita. Both of these are essentially just tiny game consoles, but the DS and 3DS are entirely unique platforms unlike anything else ever created. They have an identity outside of just being handheld, which is something that their modern competitors, the PlayStation Portable and the excellent yet floundering PlayStation Vita, cannot say. And now let's talk about the black sheep of Nintendo's modern console lineup. The Wii U. This was a console so poorly marketed that many people thought it was just an add-on for the original Wii. However, even though it failed, it did in many ways continue Nintendo's innovation track record. However you personally feel about it, the Wii U gamepad is one of the most unique game control devices ever devised. This was an attempt to bring the advantages of the DS's dual-screen nature onto a home console, and when implemented properly, it works like magic. The amount of magic the gamepad can work for things like open-world RPGs, especially in titles such as The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, is brilliant, and I love it for that. Unfortunately, however, due to its poor marketing and lack of hardware power, the Wii U failed. However, in a kind of ironic way, this also set Nintendo apart. They were the failures, which in a lot of ways made them and their fans unique. For better or for worse, the Wii U continued the trend of Nintendo being viewed as the different group. And now for something I can be positive about. Along last year comes Nintendo's smash hit, the Nintendo Switch. This console represents fully every single thing I've been talking about. The Nintendo Switch did something that people had been dreaming about for years: an elegant merging of handheld and home console gaming. Detachable controllers filled with no small amount of awesome technology such as HD Rumble and gyroscope controls create a vast array of possibilities for how the controllers can be used. The dock allows you to take your favorite game on the go and put it right on your TV. Or, depending on how you see it, take your favorite home console game and take it on the go. The Switch's level of power, when taken by handheld standards, is astonishing. Never before had people even considered that a handheld in this day and age would be able to run Doom 2016. Nintendo's success with this innovative and entirely unique platform has set them apart in a positive way. Not only are they relevant, but they are relevant for doing the things only Nintendo does. The Switch offers a unique experience, a workable level of power, and a repertoire of exclusive features that separate it from the competition. It is easy to understand how Nintendo's platforms attract people. In a world where the current Xbox and PlayStation are as bog standard can get, Nintendo's platforms are a breath of fresh air for people. They offer experiences that you can't get anywhere else on a purely hardware level. Nintendo's modern platforms, barring in many ways the Wii U, have unique personalities and character. They all have a distinctive aspect that sets them apart and makes them memorable. The DS and 3DS's two-screen design, the Wii's one-of-a-kind controller and motion controls, the Wii U's unique control device, and the Switch's first-time accomplishment. It is extremely difficult to make on Switch a feature in and of itself, but Nintendo managed to do just that. The Switch is such a unique and attractive platform that on Switch is a feature all its own to some people. The same cannot be said for competing platforms. So I believe we've narrowed down the Nintendo appeal as far as the hardware. Nintendo's appeal is found in its uniqueness, and each console's one-of-a-kind features. Every modern console has a memorable, unique aspect that sets it apart and makes playing a game on it an experience exclusive to that console. For that reason, Nintendo's hardware sets itself apart, and it is one of the main reasons why Nintendo has its exclusive appeal. Part 2. Games. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to deny that Sony has a laundry list of excellent exclusive franchises and that Xbox used to. But when one takes a look at Nintendo's massive list of exclusive franchises and compares them to that of Sony or Microsoft, the many differences become utterly apparent. Let's compare a few of these. When you look at Sony's exclusives through their history, the problem becomes obvious. They only have a few genres. For the PS1 and PS2 eras, it was the mascot platformer. Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, the works. Now, I'm not saying that all these games are bad, I'm simply pointing out that they are all the same genre. For the PS3 and PS4 eras, we saw a shift toward the dark and gritty third-person action-adventure with stealth elements. Trademark. You have Uncharted, a third-person action-adventure with stealth elements. The Last of Us, a third-person action-adventure with stealth and survival elements. Horizon Zero Dawn, an open-world third-person action-adventure with stealth elements. And The Order 1886, a third-person action-adventure with laughable stealth elements. Just to name a few. Now, of course, there have been outliers with the likes of Until Dawn and God of War. But, of course, God of War is now shedding its unique identity as an isometric hack and slash in an attempt to be more like The Last of Us, which is why I have no interest in it. Of course, one of the most significant upcoming PlayStation exclusives is Days Gone. Get this, an open-world, third-person action-adventure with stealth elements. If hearing me say third-person action-adventure with stealth elements is getting repetitive, then congratulations, the point has been made. Open-world, third-person action-adventure with stealth elements, trademark. Now let's go into editing hell and take a look at Nintendo's list of exclusives. The Legend of Zelda, an adventure puzzle game. Super Mario, a platformer. Splatoon, a competitive shooter. Xenoblade Chronicles, a JRPG. Mario Kart, a party racer. Super Smash Bros., a party fighting game. Pokemon, a Monster Collection JRPG. Pikmin, whatever Pikmin is. Super Paper Mario, another JRPG. Mario Party, a freaking board game. Metroid, an exploration adventure game. And many others. Sheesh. That is a lot of exclusive franchises to cover, and I would never get through all of them. We'll take a look at the ones most currently relevant, but the real point I want to get across with this is the vast variety of games their list of exclusives offer. Nintendo offers an exclusive for pretty much every player with any interest. If you like open-world adventures with great stories, Zelda has you covered. If you like platformers, Mario's got your back. If you like competitive multiplayer, Splatoon is your best friend. If you like whatever Pikmin is, then you've got Pikmin to be what only Pikmin can be. Nintendo, for the most part, has a significant exclusive in every major genre. That means that if you are a fan of a genre, there is most likely an excellent entry into said genre that you can't play unless you own a Nintendo console. There's more to this exclusives point as well. Not only does Nintendo have a franchise to represent every major genre, but for the most part, their exclusives are unique entries into their genres. Take The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and put it side by side against Horizon Zero Dawn. While both are great games with strengths in their own rights, the appeal of Breath of the Wild is right in front of you. Name another massive open-world game with this kind of art style, or this level of freedom to explore the environment. You see a mountain, you can climb any part of it. The only limit is your stamina. Anything you see can be fully explored top to bottom. The whole game world is presented in this incredibly unique art style that sets it apart from every other game in the genre. It's got this really interesting combination of anime and cell shading. Honestly, there's nothing else I've ever seen that even remotely looks like Breath of the Wild, which just makes it one of the coolest things ever. There is no open-world action game like Breath of the Wild, which is why it has its appeal. How about Nintendo's competitive shooter offering? We'll look specifically at Splatoon 2. In the current world of generic military shooters we've seen 100 times before, Nintendo comes around and makes their competitive multiplayer offering a game about anthropomorphic squid children with ink blasters fighting to cover as much of the map with their color ink as possible. Well, darn. That's original as I'll get out. I'll also ask once again, name a single competitive shooter that looks or plays even remotely like Splatoon. How about Nintendo's take on fighting games? Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros. Is extremely easy to learn the basics of, but hides a crazy amount of depth under the hood. It has an entirely different camera perspective than most other games of its nature, and offers the unique opportunity to play with more than 2 players. It's a fighting game that covers all the bases and offers features that can't be found anywhere else. There's not much to compare Super Mario to, as games like Super Mario Odyssey are among the last bastions of 3D platforming in the industry. It is no small accomplishment that Nintendo has a franchise that can still attract such a massive fan base in an effectively dead genre. Nintendo has great offerings in various genres, but each one of their games possesses its own flair. There is a specific attribute that separates a Nintendo game from any other game. That attribute is style. Nintendo is the company who is willing to make an open-world game with an art style like Breath of the Wild. They will make a shooter about squid people with ink guns. They will make a game about throwing your sentient hat at frogs and possessing them. Wow, that sounds way weirder when I say it out loud. How about a JRPG set on the corpse of a god? Or Pikmin? Because Pikmin. However you spin it and however you feel about it, Nintendo games have a flair all their own that makes them recognizably different than anything else on offer. People recognize this and turn to Nintendo for experiences they can't and will not get anywhere else. Part 3. Memories. Nintendo is the longest-lasting major console manufacturer. For that reason, people of all ages who have dropped into gaming at pretty much any point in its existence have likely played a Nintendo console at least once. Their influence has been felt in this industry since the crash. So many people have so many memories of using so many of their platforms, and that sort of sentimental attraction can go a long way toward maintaining a player base. People love Nintendo for the experiences they gave them as children, and young people today are being given great experiences now, confirming that Nintendo's influence will likely continue into the foreseeable future. The name Nintendo has sentimental value to people, and while this can be a harmful mindset for a lot of reasons, its influence in setting Nintendo apart cannot be understated. Part 4. Conclusions and personal thoughts. There's one word that I feel I have been repeating constantly throughout this video. That word is unique. Being unique is Nintendo's greatest asset. It is the main reason that so many people love them, and is why their presence in the gaming industry is a whole different deal than that of Sony or Microsoft. Their later consoles all have a unique flair that makes playing games on them their own experience. They have an excellent entry in pretty much every major genre that fans of said genres won't want to miss. Their presence over the years has given them a massive population of fans who have a mental connection with them. The Nintendo appeal is actually quite simple. It's that they give people experiences that they can't get anywhere else, on sentimental and practical levels. Their games are so different and so apart from the crowd that it's impossible to think of them not as something entirely out there. People love them because they do what no one else does. They make the game that no other company would dare to make, and Nintendo's in the position where they have to make unique titles because that's what they're known for, whereas Sony or Microsoft are afraid of making anything that breaks the mold because they know that they have to meet their bottom line, whereas Nintendo's bottom line is uniqueness. It's an amazing situation that they've put themselves in, where they don't have to have a technologically masterful console. They just have to have unique titles, and that console has to have some unique function. The Switch didn't need to do 4K HDR. Breath of the Wild didn't need to run at 120 frames per second. All it needed was uniqueness. And I think that's something Nintendo figured out. And it's also something that other game companies should figure out. If people strived for uniqueness more than they strived for just being the most technologically advanced thing ever, I think we'd have a lot more color in the gaming industry. So maybe people should look at the Nintendo appeal and think, I want the same thing. This has been the Overthinker. Thank you for thinking with me. Good day to you all.